Welcome to Flash Tutorial Quiz Game with Clues. When you finish these two tutorials, you'll create a little game something like this. You're given the steps and ingredients for a mix, a cake or something, and you can call this recipe. The idea is to memorize this. You got as long as you want, I believe, to memorize it. And then click here and you got to find the correct answer. Well, the correct answer was to heat the oven, so I'll get that right. When I do, it jumps to step 2. Step 2 is to grease the pan. Well, let's say I can't really remember. I say dry ingredients. No, it's going to give me a clue. I'll say wet ingredients. It's going to give me a clue. And let's say after that I get it right, it jumps to step 3, which is the dry ingredients. But let's say I don't get it right. One clue, 2 clues, 3 clues. After 4 clues, 3 clues, the 4th time, it will automatically jump to step 4 for you automatically. The wet ingredients is right. We'll get a few wrong here. And finally bake it, and it says you're done. We're going to start off by opening a new FLA. Make sure you have ActionScript 3. I have a width of 550 and a height of 400, 24 frames a second, and my background is white. I'm going to call this frame labels, FRM LABs. So when we jump from frame to frame, we'll have a name to call it. This first one, click on it, open the properties panel. It says frame, and I'm going to call this intro, INTRO. Going up to the 10 mark, insert a keyframe, and this is going to be my first step of my ingredients sort of thing, my first step of my recipe. This one's going to be oven, OVEN, and notice when I click it, a little flag goes in here. I'm going to do one more, then one more here, insert a keyframe. After the oven was pan, so this one's going to be grease the pan, PAN, and I'll do the rest of them and get back to you. So now if you look, I have the intro, the oven where I heat the oven, grease the pan, mix the dry ingredients, the wet ingredients, bake it, and we're done. Now I made them at every 10 mark, and that will allow me, if I want, to have up to 9 hints. When we start this, we want it to stop at this introduction, lock this frames layer, and insert a layer. Call it ActionScript, AS. Click on this first frame, open the Actions panel, and type this code. Play _ BTN. We're going to make a button called play, period, add event listener, small a, capital E, capital L. That will all turn blue if it's spelt right. Open bracket, mouse event, capital M, capital E. Mouse event will turn blue if it's spelt right. This is all capital uppercase. Click, CLICK, comma, play. That's what we're calling this function. Close bracket, semicolon. Function, FUNCTION, small f, turns purple if it's done right. There's the function being called up, we called play. Open bracket, event, small EVENT, turns blue, colon, mouse event. You can copy this mouse event and paste it in. Close bracket, colon, void. Void and function are the same color. There's an open curly bracket, and we want to jump to the frames that are called oven, so we say go to end, stop. Small g, small t, capital A, capital S. Open bracket, quotation, oven, close quotation, close bracket, semicolon. And by now, a closed curly bracket should have come. If not, put it in. We made code for a button. Now we have to make a button. Back to the timeline. Select this frame, layer, insert layer. Click on this and drag it to the bottom. And call this buttons, B-U-T, B-U-T-T, buttons. Select frame 1. And we want to make a little button somewhere on the stage. I'm going to pick up my rectangle tool right here. If you're not seeing rectangle here, click here and select rectangle tool. This is the outside called the stroke. I want that black. This is what's called the fill. Right here. I'm going to have my fill be a light color. It's going, so let's make it a greenish color. Say to go. Holding my shift down because I want it to be a square. There it is. And pick up the selection tool, highlight it, modify, convert it to a symbol, and we called it play, P-L-A-Y, shift underscore BTN, and it is a button, so click here for button. Copy this, right click, copy it, and okay, open the properties panel. There it is, because if we don't give it an instance name, it's not going to recognize that code. And paste it in. So now we have a button. Lock all the layers. Select this bottom layer. Insert a layer. And let's call this recipe, REC. Select frame 1. Come up to here, and we're going to put in some text. I believe our text is this one here, so click here and pick up a black, so I want black text. And pick up your text tool here. Open this properties panel. We want classic text, static text. I have Arial, and I have 12 points, I believe, something like that. And click embed. You need that. Embed the text. Upper, lower, numerals, and punctuations. Okay. So that now allows me to have text embedded in my program when I use it. And select that first frame and type. And this is what I have for my text. My ingredients and all that stuff. You can call this recipe here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps, and they are, there's the oven, heat the oven, there's the pan, grease the pan, dry ingredients dry, wet ingredients wet, and bake, and finally it's done. Now I don't need to see this, or I don't want the people to see this once the game gets started, so click on frame 2 here, insert a blank keyframe. So when we jump to here, that disappears. Okay, so let's leave that for a second. We now have to put in the different steps here that the person's going to use to click on to decide which order these are supposed to be in. Select the Rec 1, insert a layer, call this Steps, S-T-E-P, Step, BTN. Step buttons, that's this one here. I don't need to see them here, I want to see them starting here. So insert a blank keyframe. And again, this is the outside of the symbol I'm going to make. This is the inside, and I'm going to pick a blue. Now this may change before I'm finished. Whoops, excuse me. Pick up blue. That's too dark, I won't see my text. And I'm using a rectangle again, and I'm going to make a rectangle. Rectangle tool. Select there. There's my rectangle. I'm going to pick up my selection tool, highlight it, modify it, convert it to a symbol. This time make sure movie clip is selected. And this is called oven movie clip. O-V-E N shift underscore MC. Copy this. Copy it. Select OK. And open the properties panel. There's that movie clip oven. And again, we got to give it an instance name. Otherwise, you can't write code on it. Double click on it. And now we're inside of that oven movie clip. This is the rectangle, REC. Lock that layer, insert a layer, text, T-E-X-T. Okay, come over here. I believe this is the text box here, so let's make that black now. and pick up your text tool. It shouldn't have changed from before, but let's look at it. Yep, let's try that. And I'm going to write my text here, and I'm going to say oven, O-V-E-N. Now, click on the selection tool and drag that in there. Okay, back to scene 1. There's the oven. I'll add the rest of the steps and get back to you. Now, as you can see, I have all my buttons here, and they go right up to the end. If you are stopping there for some reason, just click and drag up to there. Now, we don't want to see this. We don't want to see this button. If I just, I'm going to show you something. So I don't want to see it here. So what I could do is right click and insert a blank keyframe, so that when I jump to here, I don't see that button. But that'll give you a fault. I'll show you. Test movie test. Or it could give you a fault. Oh, I didn't stop here. Go back to the action layer here for a minute. Open the action code. I need to stop here. Couple enters. S-T-O-P. Open close bracket semicolon. Test movie. It stops here. I click. Now, if you see it's working all right here. If I would have used a movie clip here, this wouldn't work. This would have given me an error. But that's working good. I'm happy with that. Now what we have to do is write the codes for these, which button is to be pressed. Click here, insert a keyframe. And type. This part right here is very similar to what we just did on the frame 1 where we had the button. So I'm not going to go through that again. But it's oven _ MC period, add event listener, mouse event click, oven, close bracket, there's a comma here, calling the function up. There's the open curly bracket here. Down here is going to be another curly bracket when we're finished beside this one. After this open curly bracket, we want to say trace count. So we're going to have some kind of a variable called count. Trace count. If open bracket count equals 1, close bracket, that's testing to see if this is equal to 1, and it will be when we finish validating it. We have to make a variable. There's another open bracket. This open bracket is for this if statement. We don't need this. You don't need any of these that are light. Count equals count plus 1 semicolon. This is allowing me to add 1 to count so that I can go to the next step. Go to and stop. Small g, small t, capital A, capital S. That turns blue. Open bracket. This is similar to that step 1 where we had quotation. Step 2, close quotation, close bracket, semicolon. There's a closed curly bracket for this one here, and here need another closed curly bracket. So now I need to make this variable called count. Go to the top of the page, put a couple enters, and type this. Type. VAR, small v turns purple, space count equals 1 semicolon. So now I have this variable called count, and I trace it. So let's do the test here. Make sure we have no errors. Okay, we're sitting on that page 1, or in that frame 1. The button disappears, and it was the oven one right here. So if I click this, 2 things are going to happen. We'll see one, but 2 things are going to happen. I'm going to increment count. I'm going to display count. So, and I'm going to jump to step 2. But I'm tracing before I add 1 to it. So when I click on this heat oven, I'm going to see a number 1 over here. And I have an error. Frame label step 2 not found. Ah, I know why. It's because I'm copying my code from a previous, and it's not step 2 we want to go to. We want to go to the step that is called pan. P-A-N. Understand, I have to make these work before I put them on a video. Control, test movie, test. And there's the 1. So that's working good. Let's go back to the timeline. Click right here, insert a keyframe. Let's go back here and copy the code from here down. Copy this. Copy. Come back up to here. Open the action script. Paste it in. And oven now becomes pan, because that's what we called this movie clip, pan, P-A-N. Copy pan, paste it in here, paste it in here, we want to increment count. Now we're going to say if count equals 2, keep all this, but now we want to go to after pan, we want to go to the dry ingredients, D-R-Y. So this should work. Control, test movie, test. No errors. Heat the oven, counts 1. Grease the pan, counts 2. I'll do one more with you. Hang on. We still should have that copied. Go in here, insert a keyframe. Open the action code, paste it. No, it was the pan I had copied. Okay, go back here, open the actions panel, copy this whole thing, right click copy, back to the timeline, click here, open it, highlight it, right click paste. And this was the code for pan, but we now want this to be the code for the dry ingredients. So here put dry, D-R-Y, copy dry, paste it here, paste it here, and paste it here. We need to make this a 3. And we want to go to wet. Now I'll try this. Test movie, test. Heat the oven, 1. Grease the pan, 2. Dry ingredients, 3. And we got to do 4 and 5. I'll do them and get back to you. I have them done. I'm going to just show you quickly. There's my wet code for my wet. I changed that to wet. I have a count of 4, and now I want to go to bake. And on my bake code, I make this word bake up here. I make my count 4 and done. Yeah, the count should be 5 on the bake here. If count 5. I think that's right. Control, test movie, test. If I heat the oven, 1. Grease pan, 2. Dry ingredients, 3. 4, 5. Now we are sending it to done, but I have nothing on that done frame. Down here, select this last layer, insert a layer. And I'm just going to call this one directions. D-I-R. This is like to tell you what step you're on. And right now, click here, insert a blank keyframe or a keyframe. Pick up the text tool. And this time I want some other crazy color. I'm going to go with this crazy brownish color here. And putting a little label here. And I'm writing done. D-O-N-E. So now let's just make sure we see that done when we're done. Test movie test. Heat the oven, grease the pan, dry ingredients, mixed in wet ingredients, and bake. And we should have went to that done frame. Now why I didn't go to that done frame? Oh, maybe I should be here. Go to and stop done. I could just check my code here for this. Right here, check this code. Go to and stop done. And if I look at that frame, it's called done. Okay, let's try it again. Test the movie, test. Heat the oven. 1. Grease the pan. 2. Dry ingredients. 3. Wet ingredients. 4. Bake for 50 minutes. Done. Good. What you want to do is save your FLA. This is getting pretty long. I'm going to do a follow-up. It'll be Flash Tutorial Quiz Game with Clues, Part 2. Make sure you save this FLA. Hope you learned something from this tutorial, and I hope you use what you learn.